Hey gang, it's Heather for Liberty Librarian. Woo! It's another Thursday in a polar vortex of fun here in Minnesota. It is very cold today. Our school is back to having some more in-person classes this week. So I drove through a snowstorm this morning, uphills both ways, and I got to, I mean, literally, it kind of is that way. But I went to work, and there were some people there. I had a student worker work with me, and it was really pretty good. But I'm kind of tired of winter. I actually thought about taking the day off today, but there's like so much going on that I wanted to talk about. So here I am. I'm here to be with you. So hopefully you're having a great week and things are going okay. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about yesterday was a big day in history, and things that I'm interested in are Groundhog's Day was yesterday, which seems like it shouldn't be a big deal. But to me, it's one of those holidays that are an underdog, literally a groundhog dog of a day. And there's also yesterday was an important day to me. The day the music died, the Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, Big Bopper plane crash. And I want to talk a little bit about that. And I have intellectual freedom news if we have time. I don't know. It's just like with winter here, it gets really long, and I've been having a hard time lately just staying focused on everything. And uh, I hope you guys are doing okay, but I just have been feeling like this never ending pandemic stuff is wearing everybody down and it's wearing me down. But I think there are things that are more important than our short term misery. I think there's always going to be misery. I think there's always going to be something. And we've just had it so good for so long that we forget what misery actually is. So, one of the things I think about with Groundhog's Day is that it is looking forward to the spring and the warmth. And the history of Groundhog's Day is actually kind of interesting. Um, the very first Groundhog's Day was February 2nd. So that in 1887 of all days. So this is our, just like in the movie, the rodent meteorologist is from Gobbler's Knob in Puxatawney, Pennsylvania. So Puxatawney Phil, the very first one was back in 1887. So they've been doing this forever. Over 100 years. So it's a tradition that says if a groundhog comes out of its hole on the day on February 2nd and it sees its shadow on the ground, it gets scared and runs back into its burrow, predicting 6 more weeks of winter weather. No shadow means an early spring. So it actually ends up being about the same either way. There's like early spring. What's early? Is it going to be 5 weeks? They haven't really gotten that. But so I think from what I saw in the news, it looks like we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter. But that's okay. So what I looked up, I'm going to have a little sip. I'm having my hot tea tonight. And it's the lemon drop of sunshine one because I need more sunshine in this dark time. So let's see. Before I get it, I'm going to just put my comments on. And I think I'm going to turn off my email because if I don't do that, it'll yell at me the whole time. Don't yell at me, email. Okay. So getting there. So much stuff. I need a tech support person, right? Okay. So Groundhog's Day. Originally has its roots in an ancient Christian tradition of Candlemas. Oh, I turned off my email, I promise. It just didn't want to turn off. It's like one of those things where you have to give it permission. Freaking A. Just turn off. I could have done this before. Oh, and Andy's home too. Everything is all going so well. Ha. So, Candlemas. Candlemas is an ancient Christian tradition, and the clergy would bless and distribute the candles. They'd get a bunch of candles, they'd bless them and give them to the people. And the candles would actually represent how long and cold the winter would be, which kind of seems pagan to me. I think that they must have stolen that from something. But Germans had expanded on the concept of Candlemas by selecting an animal, the hedgehog, as a means of predicting weather. So once they came to America, the German settlers in Pennsylvania continued the tradition. Although they switched from hedgehogs to groundhogs because that's what they had there. So, I mean, like here in Minnesota, we could have, I don't know, like beavers up north or squirrels. Oh, if the squirrel comes out of the tree and sees its shadow, it's an early spring. So look to your rodents if you don't have it. Don't feel like you are left out. So the Candlemas, they call Pennsylvania the Keystone State, which I think is really interesting. So groundhogs are also called woodchucks. So if you hear those names, they're kind of synonymous. The scientific name is Marmota monix, and they are pretty big little critters. They're about 12 to 15 pounds, bigger than a cat, and they live about 6 to 8 years, which for an animal in the outdoors, that's pretty good. And if you don't know what groundhogs are, you'd think, are they like murderous animals? No, they eat vegetables and fruits, and they whistle when they're frightened or looking for a mate. They're sometimes called whistle pigs, which I didn't know that. And they can climb trees and swim. So they are like a multi-talented bunch of little animals. So they also go into hibernation in the late fall, which is a very smart thing. I think I should start to hibernate in the fall because I'm getting really tired of this winter stuff. And during that time, during their hibernation, their body temperatures drop and their heart beats slow from 80 to 5 beats per minute. So it was almost stopped. It's almost like they're dead. And then they lose about 30% of their body fat because, they fatten up right before winter starts, and then they burn that all like winter long. So in February, the male groundhogs emerge from their burrows and they look for a mate. Hey, baby. Not to predict the weather. So they really they're not weather animals. We've put that personality trait on them. They actually just want to get laid. So before they go underground again, and then they come out of hibernation for good in March. So they come out in February going, hey, I've been sleeping for a while. I want to get some nookie. And then they get nookie and they're like, okay, tired. Let's go to sleep until March. It makes sense when it's nice and warm outside. Then you want to go outside and eat and party, right? So groundhogs have it made. They actually really have an interesting life. If only they lived more than 6 to 8 years. They are pretty smart. So the story goes, in 1887, a newspaper editor belonging to a group of groundhog hunters, so they actually went out and hunted them from Puxatawney, they actually had a club called the Puxatawney Groundhog Club, that Phil, the Puxatawney groundhog, was America's only true weather forecasting groundhog. So they had made this whole thing up. The line of groundhogs that have since been known as Phil might be America's most famous groundhogs. But other towns across North America have their own groundhogs. So it's not the only town that does it. There's Birmingham Bill and Staten Island Chuck. And how do you say this? It's Shubenacadie Sam. I probably botched that. But what everyone focuses on, and I especially, is the beloved 1993 movie Groundhog Day. Starring Bill Murray, right? It's an amazing movie, and every Groundhog Day I watch that movie. So I watched it the other day, and it's one of my all-time favorites. And if you know what Groundhog Day is like in that movie, is he wakes up on it's Groundhog Day, he's there as a newscaster to cover the story, and the day keeps resetting. He lives the same day over and over and over and over again, almost to the point where he thinks he's like a god. So, and what's interesting to me is he starts off doing really dumb things and, trying to figure it out. But after a while, he just learns everything, gets to know everyone, tries to fall in love. It's quite amazing. So today, tens of thousands of people converge on Gobbler's Knob and Puxatawny each February 2nd to witness Phil's prediction. And now the Puxatawny Groundhog Club hosts a 3-day celebration featuring entertainment and activities, which not as much probably this year with the pandemic, but I do think it is quite awesome. And like some more facts about that Groundhog's Day movie is it kind of led to a lot of other movies doing kind of copycat things, like getting stuck in a time loop. Time loops are really interesting story tropes. I just watched, oh gosh, what was that one called? The Russian Doll on Netflix. Very similar idea, but a little darker. She gets killed and she wakes up and she goes to the same day over and over and tries to figure out how to break herself out of the loop. And there's one on Hulu. Oh, what is that? Let me look real quick. I'm gonna oops, I muted myself. Sorry. It's called Palm Springs. I keep wanting to call it Pacific Rim, and I'm like, that's a kaiju movie, and it is not the same. But no, it's really interesting about that one is it's more like a love story, but they go through the same day over and over again, and it makes you kind of think like if you were stuck in that and you had an eternity, would you want to leave? I mean, you have everything you need. You can eat. You're never going to die. You're always but you're limited by your space. So these people are at a wedding. So, and it's not one of the characters' favorite days because something bad has happened that they don't want to keep reliving over and over again. But there's potential in it, and they get to know each other over time and get angry, and it's a great story. So definitely check that one out if you get a chance. Palm Springs. It has what's the heck is that guy's name? Andy Samberg, and the new lady who is in Black Mirror. If I click this, it won't try to click a video, will it? It's like Groundhog's Day. Her name is Christian Milati, and I love her. She's really good in the Black Mirror episode where it's like almost like Star Trek. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's quite good. So I think about that. A lot of we were talking about Princess Bride the other day about how the pandemic is almost like it's the character that's sucking, like they have the suction cups on the characters, Dread Pirate Scott Wesley, and they had suction cups on his head and it's sucking the life out of him. And whereas the pandemic kind of feels like it's sucking the life out of you. And my problem is I feel like I'm kind of living the same day over and over again because you get up. Most of the days you don't go anywhere. You get sort of dressed in your casual attire, and it's all feels kind of the same. Cats are there. I eat things throughout the day. I do work that's always kind of the same. Nothing really changes. So it kind of feels like Groundhog's Day to me. And that would be a Groundhog's Day I don't want to live in. If it was one where there's a big party going on, you get to see people and talk to people and have fun with it, that would be awesome, and I wouldn't mind that at all. But Groundhog's Day, that was 1993, right? So it was directed by Harold Ramis and written by Harold Ramis and a screenwriter named Danny Rubin, who really didn't do much else after that. He was most famous for Groundhog's Day. There's an interesting article, I think, in the New Yorker or New York Times or something about him and like that fame and the fact that it never really took off after that. But Groundhog's Day, it's beloved, and people love it so much. They've even made a musical in the past few years about it. I mean, and they've copied the idea and done different things. I think it's just brilliant. And if you ever get a chance to go out to Puxatawny, you should definitely go see. They have like a little like place on like a plaque on the ground where you could step where Bill Murray was, and um, it's kind of amazing. And they made the budget back then was about $14.6 million, and people are still watching it today, so it's still making money to this day. The box office said in 1993 it made its money back in 12.5 million, and then it had it came out on President's Day, and um, it has gone like, you know, the royalties are what keeps coming in. So people love it. The total it made about 70.9 million, but it's just loved. It's like one of those cult classics that you have to see. So if you've never seen Groundhog's Day, please go watch it. It is one of my all-time favorite movies, and it makes you really think about life and what's important. And even if you were in a time loop, how would you deal with it? So definitely worth it. Oh, here it is. The Groundhog's Day, the musical. In 2014, they worked with the screenwriter Danny Rubin to work on a script for the Groundhog's Day, the musical. And so it says they ruled out doing a direct sequel after the film in 1993. Rubin also holds a story credit in the 2004 Italian remake of Groundhog Day. So in Italy, they made Groundhog Day, and it's called Igia Itieri, which is like It's Already Yesterday is the name. So it's also commonly called Stork Day, which I'm thinking it must mean they had a baby over and over. And so they asked about a sequel in 2018, about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was said it would never happen because, you know, I know Bill Murray, he's not going to do it. Despite that he said this, Bill Murray, Tobolowsky, and Brian Doyle Murray reprised their roles in a commercial for Jeep Gladiator played during Super Bowl last year. February 2nd, and filmed in Woodstock. The commercial recreates a scene from the film. So go on YouTube, because every time I try to link to stuff like that, they knock it off. So it's so cute. So Bill Murray called it his first and last commercial. So they talk about the Groundhog's Day in it. So definitely one of my favorite holidays. The musical adaptation, Stephen Sondheim expressed interest in creating the musical, but it was never realized until later. And so after 2012, they made songs and jokes and 12 songs, I think, for it. So he also did that. And then he had, let's see, Warchus and Michelin did Matilda the musical, and then they worked with Rubin for the Groundhog's Day the musical. So it won awards. The Broadway version began in 2017, and the show was nominated for several categories at the 2017 Laurence Olivier Awards, winning Best Actor and Best New Musical. And Murray attended a Broadway show in 2017 along with Doyle Murray and Rubin. So they're also had a video game narrative sequel in 2019 called Groundhog Day, like Father, like Son. So, I mean, this one was a VR, Oculus Rift, and HTC Vive, which I've never done. And this has Phil's son, Phil Connors Jr., who's grown up in the shadow of his father. He becomes trapped in his own time loop. So, who out there has played that? I've never even really heard of it before this week. So it might be interesting if you're into the VR type games to try that out. So Groundhog's Day, love it. Okay, so that is one thing that has happened, and I'm going to switch gears because the other thing that happened this week is the day the music died. And in my family, it is actually quite an important holiday. What the day the music died is February 3rd, 1959. Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper. And Big Bopper's real name was J.P. Richardson. And they were killed in a plane crash near Clear Lake, Iowa. And I am from originally Mason City, Iowa. And the pilot was a man named Roger Peterson. And this is close to my family life. And they call it the day the music died because the singer-songwriter Don McLean referred to it in his 1971 song, American Pie. So you hear, bye, bye, Miss American Pie, drove my Chevy to the levee. Yeah, that's it. That's that song. So that's what it's about. And it's about the time in history where all things are kind of like everything's on fire and everything that we think of as good and pure has changed after that moment. So it was before the 60s. In the 60s, everything changed. But in my family, one of the things that it's really hard to talk about sometimes is because my grandfather was directly involved with this. His best friend, my grandfather, Dwayne Mayfield, his best friend was the pilot, Roger Peterson. Now, they were good friends together in Mason City. My grandfather was deputy sheriff in Mason City, Iowa, for Cerro Gordo County. And it was winter, and my grandfather, I'm going to read a thing that I had shared with my aunt a year or two ago, and I'm just going to read it straight off. Let's see if I can find it again. Here we go. February 3rd, 1959, 57. 59. I wrote it wrong. Way to go, Heather. Has always been called the day the music died, when Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper passed away in a plane crash outside of Clear Lake, Iowa. But to me, it's the story of my grandfather, Dwayne Mayfield, deputy sheriff of Mason City, whose best friend, Roger Peterson, begged him to let him fly the Rockers to their next show. My grandpa liked big band music anyway, so he had said that would be fine. The sheriff was out of town for it was like a police conference, so my grandfather was in charge. And early that next morning, he got a call about a plane crash. So he was one of the first on the scene, and he had to fingerprint the bodies, including that of his friend, his best friend. So when I talked to him about this in high school, I interviewed my grandfather for our high school newspaper. And I could never get that around my head, that like you would be the person that would have to go to a crime scene and see dead bodies, and one of them is your best friend who had begged you to let them fly this plane because they loved the musicians that were there and they wanted to get to meet them. And it was horrific. And he had said that he really regretted having Roger talk him into it, because he had said he never would have taken a bunch of rock and roll musicians and make him fly that night. If it was bad weather, he would never have done it. And he was the one who was originally supposed to fly them. So it would have been very different. And you just feel things in those moments where things change. And it can change your life forever. And I don't think he was ever the same after that. I honor his memory. And every year I think about that. And it gets further and further away. My grandfather's passed away for many years now. And it is a really sad thing. But right? Hi, Charsty. It's nice to see you. And it's one of those... It's just really hard, it's you see somebody and you hear people talk and you see all these movies about Buddy Holly and like Richie Valens. And I mean, I remember in high school going to see those movies, and it's definitely... Did you steal my phone? Oh, thank you. You see them, and it's about these celebrities, and they a lot of times make the pilot seem like he did something really wrong, and people make mistakes, and sometimes mean, I've met so many people who've gotten car accidents in winter. I mean, it would make sense. It seems a lot more difficult to fly an airplane in the winter. And somebody big and important begs you to make this flight so they aren't late for their next gig. You'll probably try to do everything you can. So it makes a lot of sense how it happened. But they never really show it from the other point of view, from the guilt that he probably felt from having his friend talk him into it, and that he'll never get to see his friend again, that kind of thing. And I think about it all the time and what he must have went through. And my grandfather was a very stoic man, and I love him and miss him very much. But he was a Marine, and he was a deputy sheriff, and he was like, those, you think of Clint Eastwood and you kind of think of my grandfather doing, and he was a really tough guy. I am like that kind of crazy person who, I was like against war. I was like a little bit of a hippie in high school, and he and I would argue about stuff. But I think he kind of liked it because, everyone else would just sort of like go along with him because he's scary. He's a scary guy in a lot of ways because he's so tough, But I think that toughness came from having to deal with all of that. Here comes my cat. And I can't even imagine what it was like for him. So, yeah, Royce says yes. Now that for something completely different, cat time. Don't step on my microphone stuff. Oh, you almost did it. I caught him. So anyway, honor the mighty dead. I honor all of them. I love Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens. Such great musicians, and we were robbed of them. But I think the universe robs us of a lot of things. Sometimes our time in a pandemic, sometimes beautiful art, and takes things away. So everything is precious, and you should hold on to that. But sometimes there's more to stories than you know. So think about all the people involved, and love your family, love them, and honor them. So that is my my honoring the day the music died, February 3rd, 1959. And today is February 4th. So February 4th be with you. I don't know. So now let us switch gears again, because I feel like it. Why not? I've been jibber jabbering. Hopefully you're all doing really well. From Charles City, really? That's cool. It's a small world, isn't it? I moved from Iowa in 91, I think, in my junior year in high school, I think. And we almost moved to Wisconsin. Oh, Wisconsin, which I liked actually, but we lived in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, so that wasn't so fun. And somebody the other day was kind of making fun of I'm like, I'm originally from Iowa, and they're like a cornfield. I'm like, Mason City is northern Iowa, so, and it's not that far away from where I live now. It's like about 2 hours away, so south of Minnesota, and in the north central part. And Mason City was famous because it had, if you've ever heard of the Music Man musical, the movie, and all of that, that's based out of Mason City. The Meredith Willson was the author and who did that. He actually, I think, taught band in high school in Mason City, and actually wrote that. So you go to Mason City, it's very different than the rest of Iowa. I'd say it looks more like Iowa City, where there's some more actual bluffs, and it's River City because there's a huge river going through it, and it's actually quite pretty. Everything around Mason City, Iowa is pretty much cornfields. But Mason City was quite a beautiful place to grow up, and I still think of it quite fondly, That's where I'm from originally, but I've lived here in Minnesota for probably more than half my life now. So, it puts things into perspective when you think about that. But so Rory is sitting in the background. Yeah, I see you. You're looking at me. He's always got to be the center of attention. It's true. Also, he wants I'll tell you about my cat. I'll point the other way. He is in his old age. He's getting that kind of cat dementia where he wants to eat everything really, really fast. So I have to hide some of it in the fridge for a little while. Like half of it goes away. So then I have to put it out later so he eats it and doesn't barf. So yeah, he's trying to give me looks so I understand what my job is, what my role is. So that's it. And he has often lately like showing up during Zoom meetings. So he just thinks it's funny. But anyway, so that is my story about my grandfather. Someday I should write it down. I think it would be a good story to write, and it would be very cathartic. But I would like to write it while all my aunts and uncles and my father and my grandma are still around. So I'm hoping I can get something written down. The anniversary will be in about another 8 years. So I think that's my timeline. I have to finish it before that. So I got to light a fire under my butt, get going with things, right? So intellectual freedom news. Dun, dun, dun. Let's talk about that. So, oops, I opened a window and I closed it right away. Let's see where it went. There we go. Intellectual freedom news is always something that's near and dear to me. I actually met this week with the Minnesota chapter of the Intellectual Freedom Committee, and we are hoping to have some presentations at Minnesota Library Association Conference next fall, which will be virtual again. I don't know when we'll actually ever have a live conference again. I'm hopeful by next fall we'll start having more and more, but you never know. And then they're also doing ARLD, which is Academic Research Library Division. So they're going to do that in April, I think. So I don't think I can do that one, but I'm going to try to present at MLA. So intellectual freedom news is near and dear to me. So I always do share a little bit of the national and international news with you every week, and I get a lot of my news from the Intellectual Freedom News blog from American Library Association. So if you are addicted to it like I am, you should be reading that, and you can get it sent to your email box every week if you subscribe. It's worth it. So what's new, Heather? Yeah, what's new? One of the things I wanted to talk about this week, where did it go? Oh, this is the one. It's more of a college and university based one, but a lot of schools and in general have gone to virtual settings. And on the Verge website, they have an article about university will stop using a controversial remote testing software following student outcry. So what they're doing is they're very worried that students are cheating because, reasons. People like anytime you have tests, people are worried there's going to be cheating happening behind the scenes. So University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign announced that it will discontinue the use of remote proctoring software called Proctorio, which sounds like it's a proctal. You get like your rectal exam. No, probably not. After this summer. So they're going to stop it. The decision is almost a year of outcry over the service, both on their UIUC's campus and around the U.S., citing concerns about privacy, discrimination, and accessibility. So what is it? First of all, it's a prominent software platform that colleges and universities use to watch for cheating on remote tests. What it does is it uses machine learning and advanced facial detection technologies to see what you're looking at and to record students through their webcams. So it's watching you while you take your test. And they monitor the position of their heads. So if your head's looking off to the side, Are you cheating? You could be, maybe. And it says it flags suspicious signs to professors who can review the recordings and decide for themselves. The platform also enables professors to track the websites students visit during their exams and bar them from functions like copy and pasting and printing. Through Proctorio and similar services have been around for years. So this isn't anything really new. The thing is, it's gotten the AI in it is what is a little more nerve-wracking. So a lot of since US around the US and around the world with the pandemic, people are forced to do almost all of their classes online now. So students and instructors at the universities around the country have spoken out because the widespread use of this software, it causes huge test anxiety. It violates privacy and has a potential to discriminate against marginalized students. In an email to instructors, ADA coordinator Allison Kushner and Vice Provost Kevin Pitts wrote that the professors who continue to use Proctorio through summer 2021 are expected to accommodate students that raise accessibility issues, and the campus is investigating longer-term remote proctoring options. It's been controversial. Over 1,000 people signed a petition calling the university to stop the service. It says Proctorio is not only inefficient, it is also unsafe and a complete violation of student privacy. So many campuses where remote proctoring has faced backlash. In Miami, they got over 500 signatures, over 3,500 signatures at the University of Regina, using a different software called ProctorTrack. So people are really hating it. There's 1,200 signatures at a petition at the University of Central Florida to dump a program called HonorLock. It's very similar. So there's so many of them out there to stop cheating. Professors and staff have criticized the service as well. So it's not just coming from the students who they're like, oh, they just want to cheat, right? No. There is Electronic Privacy Information Center filed a complaint against the Proctorio, along with 4 of the other test proctoring services, claiming that the service's collection of personal information amounts to unfair and deceptive trade practices. So it needs to stop. Even U.S. senators have gotten involved. The coalition, including all Dems, Richard Blumenthal, Elizabeth Warren, and Cory Booker, wrote to Proctorio citing a number of concerns about their business practices, and students have run head on into shortcomings of these technologies, shortcomings that fall heavily on vulnerable communities and perpetrate discriminatory biases. So that is a huge problem. And a lot of them do revolve around security and privacy, which is important to me too. It gives recordings that gives instructors and service access to some of the test takers' browsing data, which is nothing to do with the test. And not only that, but it might be looking at, let's say you're like me and you have a million tabs open and you put it in the background while you're taking your test because you're going to do your school stuff and then you're going to go back to what you were looking at. They can see what you looked at. That's not cool. They shouldn't have any access to that. I'd say if they're going to look at anything, it should only be what you're looking at during the test. And even then, I think that's even questionable. Really, it hurts yourself if you don't learn it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Cheating is sucky. It is sucky. But if somebody really wants to cheat, they're going to figure out how to do it. The worst thing of all of it is that they don't actually learn anything. And then they go out in the world as kind of dumb humans. And that is a sad thing because most of the time when you're in college, you're paying for college. So if you paid for this, you took out student loans, why would you not want to actually learn the things that you're supposed to learn? Cheating is cheating yourself, right? That's my Pollyanna thing that I'm going to say about it. So accessibility is the other concern that they bring up again and again. Students have reported not having access to a webcam at home or enough bandwidth. I live in an area that sometimes has shitty internet. This can be held against the person. Um, if you have a service like Proctorio and if you have difficulty identifying test takers with darker skin tones because the AI isn't smart, a lot of times they train AI with white people. I mean, really, it's things again and again that facial recognition software fails people of color. And they found that also people with certain disabilities are actually flagged because like sometimes somebody with autism or Asperger's, they may have kind of weird, like not weird, but unique body movements, and the way their eyes move may be different than somebody who doesn't have that going on. So oh, it's just so much. So we live in this big brother time, and on top of it, you're in school and they're going to be watching you at home. That's all anybody needs, right? So they're definitely going to be looking at other options, and you may see an end of a lot of it after this summer. And then next year, maybe they'll come up with some other new way to invade student privacy. So that is my news on that. What was the other one? There's a crazy privacy feud last week between Facebook and Apple. The CEO of Apple, Tim, and this is in Ars Technica if you're looking for the article. Tim Cook claims that Apple CEO Tim Cook claims Facebook's model leads to polarization and violence. So they're having a feud. Apple and Facebook are hating on each other. It's kind of awesome. I'm really kind of excited about it. Maybe they'll take each other down and we'll have something new rise from the flames. So what's happening between them is Apple is going to roll out a previously delayed change in policy on apps' use of IDFA, ID for advertisers, to track users for targeted advertising. So they each are calling each other terrible because of the way they're tracking. But they're both tracking people. It's not like it's going to change. But Apple made an announcement with a white paper and a Q&A targeted at users. To illustrate the benefits, it claims that the change it will offer to users describes in detail like it says like a father and daughter would have a data about them tracked and updated while doing normal everyday things. Apple's stated philosophy on user data protection and privacy announces a release window for the upcoming change. It says Apple app tracking transparency will require apps to get users permission before tracking their data across apps or websites owned by other companies. And Apple says that this should be the new world order. Facebook is like, hell no. So Facebook fights back and says that the Apple announcement was originally praised by privacy advocates and nonprofits, but publicly scorned by many ad networks because they make money on tracking data on everybody. So a lot of big businesses are siding with Facebook on this. It announced it saw $11 billion in profit over the quarter, driven in part by 22% increase in advertising revenue to more than $28 billion. Put that in your brain. And it occurred during a time when most businesses that depend on advertising that isn't delivered through Facebook struggled to survive, like news organizations. Apple had an enormously profitable quarter. So these are huge businesses making huge amounts of money. And I think they're pitting people against each other. I think that Apple, from what they've said, it sounds like they're trying to find a way to like lessen the data tracking. But how do you feel about that? I mean, I'd like less tracking in general. I'd like at least to be able to opt out. I think opting out of tracking is what it should come down to. But to get free things, some people will just say, okay, you can track me. I don't mind. But that should be your choice. It should always be a choice. So keep an eye on it. Facebook and Apple are head to head. They're going to definitely be fighting for a while. And I mean, like one of the articles that they mentioned this week is also Facebook users' phone numbers are for sale through a Telegram bot. So if you think your data is not only being tracked by Facebook, but it's being bought and sold and hacked, and like there needs to come a time when there's limitations on what they can share and what they can find out about you. And going between apps is the problem. It really is. So we'll see. I don't think anything's going to come from it. I think a lot of it is just them trying to make themselves look good, and they're going to keep fighting. So the other one I wanted to do, here is one that was of interest to me. I don't know if it's of interest to you, but what should educators expect from Biden administration on education technology? And this is an education week last week. So, we got a new president. Oh, my only free article left. Dang it. So Biden and his teams are taking the reins of federal government. So, and there's a critical point for education technology, which is something I'm really interested in. Millions of students are learning from home. There's a homework gap, and we need to have effective online teaching. So, educators should what should they expect from Biden? I mean, I feel like he has made a lot of big promises, and I'm not sure if he can even have half of them happen, but we'll see. There's a short-term and long-term homework gap problem. And there's a number of education groups, including the International Society for Technology and Education, or ISTE. Districts are still all virtual in a lot of places around the country with the pandemic. They're likely to remain that way for the rest of the year. Oh, God, I really don't want it to be that way. They need immediate resources to ensure every kid has a connection through a device or hotspot. Through his coronavirus response plan on January 21st, Biden called for $130 billion to help schools reopen, and another $350 billion to help states make up for budget cuts brought on by the pandemic's economic impact. Where's this money coming from? You guys, me, everyone, we're all paying for it, even though there's sounds like free money to make everything go better. It might not. So what they're hoping for is to make it so they can have hotspots available, so you can have internet everywhere, internet service provider packages, maybe free internet for students, satellites. I mean, they're hoping to get more coverage so students can work at home wherever they are. So they're going to look through this E-rate program, which is really important to libraries to help fund connectivity at schools and libraries. Educators use it. You already use it. So it makes sense to go through that, but more action is going to be needed. This homework gap problem for good. Someone on my Facebook today was just talking about, they had a cartoon up that said every day is it was like a gorilla and a young baby gorilla was looking at the parent, looking angry, and the parent's like, "Hey, I got a message from the school saying you didn't turn 5 of your assignments in." And I already did it. And they're like, "Could you just look?" And all these parents are like, "Oh my God," having to have a job and taking care of kids at home has been one of the most difficult things about the pandemic is that people are basically stretched to the limit because they are now educators too. And I have such sympathy because it's hard work. I know it. So hotspots are not a final solution, of course. You need to make sure every American household not only has a connection, but has the support of schools. And I think emotional support is actually really important to it too. So professional development could get more resources, because you expect all these teachers to all of a sudden be gurus with technology at home. They got to train people. So that is another thing they got to think about. So these are things that they're looking at for their policy. Where's all this money coming from? So we'll have to see. They're going to look at eliminating Title II, the $2.1 billion federal program funding teacher training, which is sad, but at the same time, bogged down with crazy red tape. So advocates are hoping Biden and company will head in the opposite direction, providing more money for professional development. Maybe that'll work. And so going to go back to being technology free is never going to happen. So they're going to have to support teachers in this new world order of technology and virtual instruction, because I don't think it's going to go back to the way it was, even if, like, let's say all the vaccines actually work and everyone gets like happy and healthy. Not just providing internet access. There's going to have to be more to that to support teachers too, because, you know, we do a lot, but we're human, and everyone's getting to their breaking point. And I think you're going to see a lot of teachers quit. I just think it's true. So anyway, that is another one. Was there one more I wanted to share? I think there's a social media one I wanted to. You ever do this where like you look at a page and then you like go to the right or whatever, and then it all of a sudden zooms and then you can't zoom back? And then you go into your Zoom and it's not actually zoomed. I gotta like figure out how to undo that. And I can't go forward and go back. Oh, Heather. Anyway, if I just make a new window with this, maybe I can unscrew myself. There we go. There we go. Much better. Okay, so the last thing. Where did it go? Social media. Yeah, there's articles this week about tech giants can't be trusted to police speech, nor do I want them to. First of all, they can't be trusted because they do a shitty job of it, and they overdo it. They're terrible, but you shouldn't let them. Social media censorship. How do we protect speech and then avoid a tech civil war? Good question. I think that's not an easy answer. It's just like so much backlash on everything. Oh man. The last one. Where did it go? Oh well. Around the web. Dr. Jill Biden closes midwinter at American Library Association with encouragement for library workers. Never forget that what you're doing matters. And that is good. I think people in all areas that are frontline workers need to remember it's hard work. We're all doing the best we can. And it may seem like we're in a Groundhog's Day situation where the day keeps going again and again and again and again and again and again. But you know what? Even Groundhog's Day, he got out of it. So maybe we just need that perfect combination of a good day and doing the best we can. And maybe we'll like all of a sudden be on the other end of this and go, remember back when we had the pandemic? And we'll be all like old people talking about going uphill both ways on the way to work and all that stuff. Maybe that's all it is. We'll get through it, and we'll have good stories to tell, and maybe some like we'll all be better people at the end. I don't know. So I think that's a good spot to stop. I really love getting to talk to you. I can't believe there's so many people on just watching. I'm just looking at this. It's just amazing to me. And I know you're all quiet and you're like, Heather, why are you telling these crazy stories? I'm doing the best I can. Oh, but when we're all done, let's have a Liberty Librarian convention, and we'll all have drinks together and tell our stories. And I'd love to hear it. And I will have you all on the show, and we will hang out, because that's all I want. Is I just want to see people again and have things kind of back to normal. So hope you had a good, happy Groundhog's Day. Hope that you think about, where you've been and where you're going, and have a great rest of the week. I really love getting to talk to y'all. Take care, and just be good to each other. Be good to yourself. You deserve it. We all deserve it. So see you next week. Love you guys.